Hi, welcome back. Today, or in this session at least, I'd like to talk about weeds. What are they? Why are they there? And why do they worry us? What can we do about them? And should indeed we do anything about them? I hope to answer all of these questions in this short presentation on weeds. Weeds are basically plants growing where they are not wanted. But of course, that is a human construct. It is us who decide whether or not a plant is a weed. Plants grown wherever they can gain, plants grow wherever they can gain a foothold, where the conditions for growth and reproduction are right. They don't deliberately go out of their way to invade your veggie patch or your lawn or the national park. They just do. Often their presence is the result of some other human behaviour, like the dumping of rubbish, erosion, excess fertiliser, or the introduction of non-native species in a natural area. In fact, 100 years ago or so, Australia had societies set up and devoted to bringing plants in from overseas to use as food or fodder crops for timber, for fibre or manufacturing, and even just for the beautification of the landscape. How many of these common weeds can you name? You've probably seen this guy before. This might be a little bit harder. Prickly pear you probably know as well. And pampas grass, a major weed, particularly in urban areas. Identification of weeds is just plant identification, basically. The same set of skills and observations are needed to identify a plant as a plant first and as a weed second. So we look at the stems, the leaves, the flowers, the fruits and the seeds if they're available. Look for shapes and profiles, the hairs, ridges, the arrangement of leaves or flowers, any pustules or sort of bubbles on the leaves or stems, special features such as stipules on grass or oil glands on eucalypts and herbs. So check out the PowerPoint I've made on books and guides. These are the best tools to use as you develop skills in identifying plants. Classification of plants is also a useful part of this study, as is gaining a knowledge of botanical terms. In fact, on this page there are quite a few botanical terms to describe different shapes and features. Many guides and keys will describe plant parts using technical terms, so it does pay to know some of the more common ones. There are online plant ID apps, but you may find a book is more useful at first. I've included a couple of handouts on terms in the activities for this session, so print them off and take them with you in the field. They can be helpful. You can use the glossary of plant terms as a starting point and add to it as time goes by. Make your own glossary. And finally, there are weeds. Identifying weeds is really about deciding which plants belong in a certain place and which ones don't. Of course, if you've got a lawn of ryegrass or couch grass, then any broadleaf weeds would not be welcome. Fortunately, mowing tends to discourage these plants while encouraging stronger growth of the grass. But when there are lots of weeds present, it may be necessary to control them, either by physical removal or by spraying with a targeted herbicide. In the bush or other more complex environments, spraying with chemicals may not be desirable. Consider how close together and interwoven many of our bush plants are, particularly in the understory. Digging up individual plants may be a good option, but this is incredibly labour intensive and time consuming. One control that's being increasingly effective is biological control. This is where a known predator of a weedy plant is introduced into the population and the predator controls the growth and spread of the weed without actually killing the plants. Sometimes they may get rid of the plant entirely. In the case of gauze, often dubbed the Ballarat wattle, there are several insect pests which have been released to control it, including this little moth here, the grubs of which eat the seed pods. So that's weeds in a nutshell. We should be lucky enough to go out and find some weeds at some stage and identify them. Thanks for listening again, and we'll catch you in the next topic.